Hello, welcome to Oxford Heirlooms. In this video, we're going to work on the cuffs of the sleeves. What we're going to do is we're going to finish off the hem of the cuff with a little red satin zigzag and trim that close so that it has sort of like an overlock stitch hem to it. And then we'll sew some elastic on the inside to act as a little cuff. Okay, so let me put the first jumper off to the side. Okay, and we'll work on the second jumper since I have not completed the hem treatment or the sleeve cuff treatment. Okay, now I have some red thread in my sewing machine. I have it set for a very tight satin stitch zigzag. On my machine, my zigzag length is 2.5 and my zigzag width is 2.5 and my stitch length is 0.6. So I've got red thread both in the bobbin and coming from the top of the machine. Now I'm going to zigzag 1/4 inch away from the bottom of the sleeve. Okay, just follow the sleeve line with that tight satin zigzag. And then when we get finished zigzagging, we will trim this close to the zigzag so that we have a nice little hem. Okay, this zigzag is going kind of slow, so it's going to take me a while. But as you can see, back here, we get a nice tight satin zigzag that we can trim next to. And that will effectively, act as the hem for the sleeve. Okay, so I've got to zigzag both sleeves, so I will be right back. Okay, I have the hem of both sleeves zigzagged, and I have gone ahead and trimmed one of them. So let me go over here to the other hem, and I'm going to use my fabric cutting scissors because they have a spring action, and the scissors open back up again nicely. So I'm simply going to trim. Let's see if I can get my finger on it here. I'm going to trim close to the zigzag line without actually cutting the zigzag. And that literally leaves like a serger machine would do, a sewn hem. But since we did this with red thread, we get a pretty little contrasting color, right? It will end up being the ruffle of the sleeve. And we'll repeat this down at the leg openings also. Let me get this cut off. There. Okay, now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'll work from the inside of the garment, but I'm going to make a mark with my blue fabric marking pen, 3/4 of an inch away from the edge of the hem. So I'm just going to mark this at 3/4 of an inch, kind of mark it in the middle, mark it over here on the end, and mark it over here on this other end. Okay, and then using my straight edge, I'm going to draw a line that I will use to sew the elastic too. Let me do it from this side. My ruler isn't quite long enough, so I have to do it in 2 sections. There. Okay, I'll do that to both sleeves, but I will do the other one off camera. Now what I'm going to do is, let me go ahead and make one more mark. I want to sew my elastic on for 1 inch on either end. So let me make a mark at the 1 inch mark along this blue line. And at the other 1 inch mark of the blue line. Okay, now I'm going to use some 1/8 inch soft stretch elastic. Now, I haven't actually measured the elastic. What I'm going to do is soft stretch elastic. You can sew it directly to the fabric and it will gather in on itself. So I've switched out my sewing machine thread to white and I'm sewing the elastic on the inside of the garment. So I'm going to put my soft stretch elastic, my 1/8 inch elastic, right on the blue line. And I'm going to begin to sew. Oops, I didn't mean to have a zigzag. With straight stitch, I'm going to sew this elastic to the blue line. When I get up to my 1 inch mark, I'm going to go backward and forward to kind of tack it into place. And here's where it gets kind of fun. Without twisting the elastic, and you need to grab the back end of the fabric so that it won't pucker, but just stretch the elastic along that blue line and simply slowly sew the elastic to the sleeve. Okay, and then move up, stretch the elastic again, and follow the line. Just stretch it from both sides. And just sew down the middle of the elastic. Sometimes people zigzag their elastic on, but I've never had a lot of luck with that. So I just go ahead and sew my elastic directly to the fabric. Okay, now when I get up to my other 1 inch line, I'm going to keep stretching until I get up to that 1 inch line. And then I will let the elastic go limp and simply sew it onto the garment the rest of the way. Okay, and that creates a gathered cuff for our sleeve. Okay, as you can see, that worked out really, really nicely. And we needed to do this before we could sew the side and the underarm seam. Now I will have to, because when I stretch this out, I can still see my blue fabric marking pen. I'll have to spray this with my distilled water, but I'll do that later. Okay, so let me do the other sleeve and I'll be right back. Okay, that gets all 4 cuffs hemmed with a red satin edge, and elastic that ruffles up the bottom and gathers the bottom of the sleeve. And we'll work on sewing the side seams in the next video. But in this video, we were sewing a red satin stitch and trimming along the bottom in order to hem the sleeve. And then we sewed elastic, stretched 1/8 inch soft stretch elastic to the inside. But thank you.